Hello, and welcome to this special event, Examining the Success of Latino-Owned Businesses, a discussion with Representative Henry Cuellar, Democrat from Texas. Today's webcast is presented by Biz2Credit. The program will begin promptly at 12 p.m. Eastern in approximately 3 minutes. A recording of today's webcast will be made available in the Biz2Credit Webcast Center following the conclusion of the session. Thank you very much for joining us. And if you're just joining us here in advance of today's special event, a reminder that this is the special event presented by Biz2Credit, Examining the Success of Latino-Owned Businesses, a discussion with Representative Henry Cuellar, a Democrat from Texas. The program will begin promptly at 12 p.m. in about 1 minute, and a recording of today's webcast is to be made available in the Biz2Credit Webcast Center. And once again, thank you to all who are joining us this afternoon. We are just about ready to get started, and welcome to this special event, Examining the Success of Latino-Owned Businesses, a discussion with Representative Henry Cuellar, a Democrat from the state of Texas. Texas is 28th. Before we begin, please note that this webcast and all answers provided by the participants are meant solely for informational purposes and are not to be considered substitutes for legal or tax advice. Business loans and other federal lending programs are not guaranteed and are issued at the sole discretion of the lender in conjunction with SBA or other governmental agency guidelines as applicable. The views expressed herein do not necessarily reflect the views of Biz2Credit, its affiliates, or partner companies that may be featured or mentioned in this webcast. We will begin by taking a look at our agenda for today's special event, and then we will introduce our host and guest for the afternoon's presentation. So that everyone can set their clocks right, this webcast is expected to last about 45 minutes. We will cover a number of important agenda points regarding the recently published Biz2Credit study on Latino-owned businesses, and we will hear from special guest Representative Henry Cuellar about his work supporting small businesses both in his home state of Texas and around the country. Then we will also hear from Biz2Credit's co-founder and CEO Rohit Arora, who will share findings from the most recent publication of the Biz2Credit Latino-Owned Business Study for 2023. And with that, it is now my pleasure to welcome our host for this afternoon's webcast, Biz2Credit's own CEO Rohit Arora, who will introduce our special guest for today's webcast. Rohit, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks for the opportunity. I would like to introduce Congressman Henry Cuellar of Texas. Today I'm very happy and pleased that as we are doing this Latino study, of having the presence of the congressman, with us to discuss the issues around small businesses in general and Latino small businesses in particular. And I will also like to compliment the congressman being the only Democrat from the state of Texas. I know it's not easy stuff, but and the reason I mention it is because running a small business is tough. There are a lot of things and challenges that they have to face every day. So as I was saying, we are very fortunate to have Congressman Cuellar among us. He serves as a ranking member of the Homeland Security Subcommittee, and also he is a big advocate for increased federal funding for small businesses, and also supports the creation of more SBDCs, which are the small business development centers, out there. And I think his background is very inspiring. He's a son of migrant farm workers, and he himself has been a lawyer prior to being a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. And he understands really, the challenges of small businesses, especially Latino small businesses, and being the Texas Secretary of State, also understand the nuances of, what makes things happen. And obviously Texas is one of the most business friendly states in the country. So we'd love to hear from him, about, how things are happening, and also, what things should be done with the Latino, businesses.
At this time, we'd like to invite Congressman Cuellar, if you can, to activate the webcam and open the microphone. You should see those controls on your side panel there.
Stand by, folks. We're about to grab the congressman.
And it appears that we're having a little bit of a delay in connecting the congressman's live stream. So with that, we can begin, Rohit, by presenting the Latino report findings very quickly. And then when the congressman's webcam is available, we will switch to that portion of our presentation. So Rohit, please, if you could take the audience through some of the findings from this year's Biz2Credit Latino-Owned Business Study.
Yeah, so I think what we have seen is, and we have been conducting this study for last 6-7 years now, and obviously this year has been very interesting. First year after COVID, the year of recovery, and what we have seen is that there has been a revenue growth of Latino small businesses. Having said that, it's still much lower than at least 10% less than what we have for the mainstream small businesses. And the other thing that we have seen is that the operating expenses have also gone up quite significantly in 2022. Now that was expected because of high inflation and high wage increases that have happened across small businesses. The operating expenses have really outgrown the operating income for most of the Latino businesses. And the other thing that we have seen, which we have seen consistently, is that average profitability of a Latino business is at least 15 to 20% lower than mainstream small business, which in itself is also We have seen that consistently, and there have been few reasons behind it, because the kind of industries they are in, and they are not as well established as Main Street small businesses are, and also they have less access to credit, compared to more Main Street small businesses. So I think that is so that have created some of this drag around the earnings and everything else. Obviously, what we are seeing is that there have been some good news also. So the good news has been that the credit scores of the small businesses, Hispanic-owned small businesses, have actually gone up. And but they're still lower than Main Street small businesses. But the good news is that gap is getting less and less. And I think now we have been joined by the congressman. So welcome, Congressman Cuellar, and it's our pleasure to have you here and hear from you, about your own experiences, and also this study we do every year, and ourselves being immigrants into this country, we very closely identify with minority and immigrant small businesses.
Yes, and first of all, thank you so much. I'm sorry I'm running a few minutes late, but we were on the floor on a couple of votes that are procedure in nature, but as you can see, I don't know if you were keeping up, but they kept that vote open for a while. The majority is having trouble passing procedure votes.
Yes.
On where we saw, so they kept it open for a long time, and so I apologize for being a few minutes late. I represent Laredo, Texas, go all the way to San Antonio. I got one of those congressional districts where there's different types of industries, and I'm by profession, I'm an attorney by profession, but I've been a small business owner, so I know what it is to pay taxes, deal with regulations, deal with overhead. So I've been a small business owner in the past, and I say that because dealing with the small business owners, I think it's important to understand and put yourself in the shoes of small business owners and what they have to deal with. So I wanted to start off with that. But my congressional district, it's interesting because you have different things that make our the small businesses grow. You got franchisees, for example, it's all over the place. And I just finished talking to the International Franchise Association, so I know the impact that it has. But in my areas in the southern part, for example, you have trade. Laredo, for example, is the #1 port in the whole country. 40% of all the trade between the U.S. and Mexico comes through one port, and that's through Laredo, Texas. Over 40% of all the trade between the U.S. and Mexico comes through Laredo. So I say that because you have a lot of small businesses and medium-sized businesses that are involved in trade. They're either custom brokers, they're either freight forwarders, they're either logistical companies, they're either transportation companies, they're either warehousing companies. So a lot of the small businesses that I have in my southern part of my area deal with international trade. Then you move into the middle area, and then you got the Eagle Ford oil and gas, which is another driver. And there you got the big companies that are there, but you got a lot of independent, small independent drilling companies, and then the companies that supply and work with the oil and gas industry. So that's another driver that we have. Then you go into the San Antonio area, the more urban area, and the big driver there are different areas, but certainly the defense companies or people that provide and supply to the defense industry, the military bases that we have is another driver, plus other things that we have in San Antonio, including tourism. So those are the different drivers in my area. So I deal with different small businesses dealing with it. And as you know, when you look at small businesses in Texas, for example, Texas is home to 3.1 million small businesses. where more than 99% of all businesses in Texas are small business. In my congressional district, I have more than 8,700 small businesses. And as you know, most of the jobs that we have are not created by the multi-corporations, but they're created by small, medium-sized companies. So for jobs, and we've seen some of the jobs have been created, have been very important. My district is about 80% Hispanic. So if you want to talk about, for example, one ethnic group in my area, Hispanic-owned businesses, we see that a lot of those fast-growing businesses that we have are Hispanic-owned, especially when you talk about women, Hispanic owners that have it. I think y'all touched upon that when you look at, for example, the percentage of Hispanic businesses applying for financing. We've seen a growth in that, and that's good. We also look at, for example, immigration issues, and all you have to do is turn on the TV and you see issues dealing with migrants and people coming to the border. But I mentioned immigration because when you look at the top 500 companies, a lot of them are either were started by migrants or their parents, and they have an impact. And that's why bringing in new blood into the country is so important. Now, what I've done here in Congress are different things. And by the way, in Texas, over 15% of the businesses are owned by Hispanic businesses itself. In Congress, I've been the lead Democrat sponsor for expanding access to capital, especially for the rural job creators. That's something I've worked on. I've also been the lead Democrat sponsor of the Main Street Tax Certainty Act, where we would make the 20% small business deduction permanent and avoid a tax increase on that. I also have been involved in helping introduce the Estate Tax Rate Reduction Act also to make sure we address that issue also. In the appropriations, I sit in the appropriations committee, and certainly we've added monies for the Small Business Administration to make sure that they have the resources or put monies into the small business development centers or the microloan technical assistance, or money into the federal state technology partnership, or monies into the business women business centers also, and of course monies into the community development financial institutions to make sure that we work with that. So we're looking at providing assistance, so especially the Small Business Administration can work and provide assistance. But I think the best way is to make sure that we provide the right environment so you can have minority-owned businesses or women-owned businesses flourish on that. So again, I'll conclude with I'm an attorney by profession, but I've been a small business owner. It was in the international trade arena. So I know what it is to pay taxes. I know what it is to deal with overhead. And it's difficult. I mean, just, during the pandemic, it was very difficult. And that's why the PPP assistance were so important to make sure that we keep businesses growing. So that, again, is a summary. And if y'all have any comments or easy questions that you want me to answer, I'll be happy to do that. But thank you so much for allowing me to be with you today.
Yeah, so we got hundreds of questions, and obviously in the essence of time, we are going to ask you 3 questions, which came from Hispanic-owned businesses, and obviously, as you rightly said, COVID and now the inflation is causing a lot of pain to small businesses also. So I think the first question is from Fort Myers, Florida. It is like, how can small businesses obtain more financial assistance from the federal government? So what's your view and thinking around that, actually?
Yeah, and again, there are different things that SBA can provide also. There's also assistance that some of the universities can help also on that. But I'll talk about the SBA primary business loan program, which is a 7(a) loan program that's available to provide there. You know, one of the things that, you know, that provides the loan guarantees for participating lenders. So you'll have the private sector working along with a guarantee from the federal government is one way. You also have the 504 loan program that provides long-term fixed rate financing for major fixed assets. But you know, that's one thing. But one of the things that we also try to do is try to keep regulation to the minimum that we need to, and try to address some of the overhead. And again, I think I would say this is very, very important also, is that, you know, I started off with trade, but, you know, we have the state trade expansion program that provides financial rewards to state and, you know, the state government so they can help small business export. You know, we always look at our domestic products market, but it's also important to look at it. And it's hard for a small business or should I say medium-sized company to go outside to another area. But, you know, SBA does provide a lot of assistance. And, you know, also the U.S. Commerce also, I got back from a trip where I sat down with folks that, you know, can help with the Department of Commerce to help export and find those companies that might be interested in working with that. I push a lot on trade because we got our internal domestic market, but you got to look at outside the area. So whether it's the SBA that partners up with women business centers or some of the microloans or the hub zone programs, there's so many areas out there. So I ask you, you know, to contact SBA or the Department of Commerce, or even call your member of Congress and ask them what's available. And finally, I would ask you to do this. You know, the Community Development Financial Institution investment capital is another area looked at. But and what I'm asking you to do that is, look, you know, whenever you have time, sit down with your member of Congress. I know some people will come up to DC and lobby us. That's fine. You know, you can come up here and educate us. But I always say, you know, when we're in the district, and supposedly we're supposed to be in the district after next week, but I ask you, you know, ask your member of Congress or your senator, hey, can you come over and just see my business and see how we operate? And here are some of the challenges that we look at, and here are some of the, you know, assistance we might need. You know, it's a lot easier because members of Congress, senators, we might be talking about Ukraine, we might be talking about a government shutdown, we might be talking about other things, and we get pulled so many ways. So when we're in the district, you can have 30 minutes, 45 minutes with a member of Congress, let them see your business. And I've had different businesses do that. In fact, I have the NFIB, you know, we're doing a small business roundtable in my district in a couple of weeks, you know, just to bring some of the small businesses together. So, you know, look at those and bring in members in also.
No, I think that's a very good advice, and we also at Biz2X have now put together a fully digital SBA lending platform, which we are offering to local banks so that they can plug and play also. The next question is actually from your constituency, you know, Elvin Varela. So she's a female-owned business, and what she's asking is that, you know, what are the ways female small business owners can get financial help when starting a business? Because I think the toughest part is when people are starting a business, and if they're female and female Latino or female minority, then it gets even tougher. So based on your experience and your work in Congress, you know, what's your advice?
You know, well, you know, first of all, I'll start from at the very beginning. You got to have a plan and a business plan, and either you develop that on your own if you have the expertise, or, you know, there are universities and community colleges that can help you develop that, because you're not going to go to the bank or another financial institution and say, you know, I have an idea. You know, a banker is going to look at it very analytically and say, hey, am I going to get my loan paid back?
Yes.
So, there are ways that you can get either training or assistance, and, those small business centers, either a community college or at a university, is so helpful. It's amazing what's available out there. The second thing is get a mentor. A mentor is so important. If you know another business person that you can sit down and give them ideas, they can give you ideas, do that. Get a mentor. I always say that to the young people, or somebody go in, either, get a mentor, get ideas, because a lot of people have done this. It's not their first rodeo on that. The Small Business Development Program, again, there's so many places that you can go to. The SBA Office of Women's Business Ownership partners with the small business area. The Women-Owned Small Business Federal Contact Program helps women-owned small businesses compete for federal contracts. And that's one of the things that I'm always pushing at. And it is difficult, I can tell you this. But the largest area where you can find contracts is with the federal government. And one of the things that I push is to try to get more small business, medium-sized businesses, minority-owned businesses get contracts, because sometimes the federal agencies or contractors, it's a lot easier to just deal with one person, not have to deal with the different type of bonds and all that, and they go with the big companies. But I always encourage them to go with the innovative small businesses, so you can get some of the federal contracts out there. So again, we want to be helpful, and certainly I appreciate what you're all doing here today.
Yeah, and then the last question is, are there any tax breaks or incentives that can help small businesses? Because obviously in this era of high inflation and also costs have gone up, anything that you guys are working on, thinking
well, the 20% small business deduction, it's something that I've been working on to make it permanent, because what we call the Main Street Tax Certainty Act. As you know, when we did the tax reform some years ago, there were some that were permanent, there were some that are going to expire. This is one that we need to make sure that we address to make it permanent, and that is, expense and allowances for certain depreciable business assets. And we just got to make sure that we work on that. The work opportunity tax credit for hiring employees, is something that, y'all should look at. And of course, research tax credits for small business is another one. So there are different ones that we can, certainly review. But again, I always say go, and a lot of the universities have those small centers. And again, you would have to tell me where you're at, and I can point you to the right universities. But I would say look at those universities. The assistants are available there, but there are some things that are available. Some of the programs that I mentioned to you right now.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's very instructive. And one comment I would like to make here is that we work in multiple countries, and we are seeing some of the other countries, at the government level, they are pushing a lot to develop digital infrastructure for small businesses, because that lowers the cost, whether it's payments, whether it's getting access to credit, information, and data. And I feel, and I've been first generation immigrant into US, have been here for last now 22 years, that, US is not doing as much as, it used to do earlier from that aspect. And obviously, as a policymaker, one of our, I think, suggestions and the request also is that because I think policymakers will have to play a bigger role in that, and the governments will have to create more of a facilitator role, which I'm seeing in other countries, especially in Asia and all that. Governments are playing a fabulous role right now to be creating or being part of that digital infrastructure, getting created, which can be used by businesses more.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think the U.S. needs to do a much better job on the digital infrastructure, and from not only that infrastructure, but how do we secure ourselves from cyber attacks and threats and all that. We just got to do more. I know we do have CISA, one of the federal agencies that does help on that, or even into, using, I know we've been debating this in Congress, using even AI to help small businesses. I know there's a debate, does it take jobs away? Does it do this? But, I think using it in a responsible way, even using AI for small businesses can help you in so many ways. So you're right. I mean, the U.S. needs to do a much better job. The U.S. has always been, one of the most innovative countries in the whole world. And we just can't lose sight to that and make sure that we do that. But the digital infrastructure and addressing issues like that, or even going into the area of AI, and I would ask talk to folks about how even AI can help small businesses.
Yes.
It doesn't only apply to the big companies that some are using already, but I think it can be very helpful, especially for a family-owned business that might have just mom, dad, or a son or daughter helping it can be very helpful on that.
No, sounds good. And I think I would like to thank you again for your time, and we'd like to work closely with you and your office on some of these, topics and cutting edge stuff that we are working here.
Yeah, and I would say thank you. And I sit on only one committee called the Appropriations, so there's a lot of time we can make some adjustments on some of those programs. So if you have any ideas, any thoughts, please. I know I got Matt here from my office. Please, contact our office, and we'll be happy to work with you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks again for your time. And
thank you. Now we got to go and make sure government stays open.
I know. No, I know.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. So thanks again to the congressman, and as we were talking about, our findings about small businesses, especially Latino-owned small businesses. So what we have consistently found is that, these Latino-owned businesses have a lower revenue, operating expenses are higher, profit margins are lower. And it also depends on, the concentration of the industry. So obviously they are concentrated in certain industries which have, seen a lot of cost pressure over last year. But I think the good news is that we're also seeing that some states are doing better than others. So Florida, Texas, these are more business friendly states. And Florida, we have seen, has actually skyrocketed to the top in terms of Latino-owned businesses, followed by California, and Texas is actually growing very fast. So we are seeing that, that is happening regionally. We are seeing certain states getting better with their business competitiveness, especially for Latino-owned businesses. And what we have been looking at is also the concentration of the industries. So obviously, from a concentration perspective, construction is at the highest. There are a lot of Hispanic, Latino-owned businesses which are in construction, followed by some of the other traditional industries. So obviously, there has been cost pressure, there has been wage pressure in those industries, which has impacted these industries in a more disproportionate way than compared to some of the other industries out there. I think the key thing that we are also looking at is that what is the the key aspects and the key points here that can help Latino-owned businesses to become more competitive. And as we have said in the past, right awareness, education, as the congressman also said, there are a lot of programs in the country where minority-owned businesses get preference in contracts, federal and state contracts. So the ability to harness those, the ability for businesses to just understand their macro environment, right now, because it's very volatile and very uncertain. So I think every business needs to plan accordingly, needs to think about it, and then the ability to also navigate through the uncertain times, because the times are uncertain. We are seeing very high interest rates right now. That has added to the cost of debt, and that has also added to overall business expenses. Having said that, I think any business which is going to be competitive right now will become super competitive when times get better. So in our view, for any small business, they need to plan ahead, they need to optimize their costs, they need to figure out ways how to grow. And we have a lot of resources here at Biz2Credit to help businesses, get access to credit, but also education, webinars, ability to get, SBA loans through our bank partners, and also working capital loans, as well as, working capital facilities. And we also have launched a tax credit financing program in the company. So this is a good time to, look at and check those out and plan, for the rest of this year and next year also.
All right, it appears that we've reached the end of our presentation for today, including the review of the Biz2Credit 2023 Small Business Latino-Owned Study. Rohit Arora, the CEO of Biz2Credit, want to thank you very much for joining us today and for hosting Congressman Cuellar. Thank you for your time and for your insights added to today's presentation.
Yeah, and thank you. And thanks to everyone.
And of course, as Rohit has said, thanks again to all who've joined us on today's presentation for this special event with Congressman Cuellar. Thank you to the Congressman and his staff for their work in overseeing small business issues in Washington, D.C. And of course, for joining us on today's presentation. Now, at Biz2Credit, we are committed to providing financing to more small businesses and helping business owners secure the best funding options for each and every project or capital need that they may be facing. With technology that makes business financing easy to understand and easy to access, Biz2Credit is helping tens of thousands of small businesses every year to increase cash flows and succeed. Biz2Credit's financing products include fixed rate financing options, which business owners can qualify for within 24 hours of submitting an online application. That application can take just 4 minutes on average to complete if you log on to Biz2Credit.com. You can create an account on Biz2Credit.com or by contacting us at our hotline that is on the Biz2Credit website, and you can submit an application for yourself today. If you've joined us for this afternoon's presentation and you had any questions that were not addressed either by the Congressman or in the review of the Biz2Credit Latino-Owned Study, please do submit some of those questions in the Q&A section right now. You'll see that on the right-hand panel of your GoToWebinar dashboard. And as we conclude today's session, we will be having some of our experts, financing specialists and other experts at Biz2Credit review those questions and reach back out to you with answers or more guidance. We will leave the stream running for an extra couple of minutes just in case somebody is in progress with entering one of those questions. And as I said, a member of the Biz2Credit funding team will review those questions and contact you one-on-one. You can also locate the resources that were mentioned in today's special event by visiting Biz2Credit.com and checking out the Knowledge Center section on the top navigation of the website. That's also where you will find the most recent Latino-owned business study, which was released just earlier yesterday. Again, we will provide a few more minutes for anyone who wants to enter their questions, and then the stream will automatically disconnect. And we will now be closing today's special event. We want to thank our guest, Congressman Henry Cuellar, for joining us on this special webcast, examining the success of Latino-owned businesses, a discussion with Representative Henry Cuellar of Texas. Today's webcast was presented by Biz2Credit. Thank you once again for joining us. The session has now concluded, and a recording of today's webcast will be made available in the Biz2Credit Webcast Center as soon as it disconnects here. Your session will now disconnect automatically. Thank you.